You know, and I think the other thing we really are missing the boat on is movement activity. People do not move. Parents don't move, kids don't move, and truly, you know, you asked me earlier, which is more important, the eating or the exercise? I think it's a combination, obviously.
Right.
But you don't have to spend much money, as we talk about lower income issues, to exercise.
Right.
All you have to do is walk out the door with a decent pair of shoes on and walk or trot or kick a ball around with a friend or, you know, move.
Right.
And we don't move. Adults don't move either.
Right, right. Well, and I think we're going to run to a break here, and we're going to keep that point in mind, because I think you're right. We've talked a bit about the nutritional part of it, the eating, the foods, supply of foods, and changing in our foods where they're more processed than what they maybe used to be and so readily available. But we're going to come back after our break here and talk some more with Adrienne about movement and bringing that more into our lives to help fight the obesity factor. You're listening to Joan on the Joan Jerkovich Show, 910 KINA. I tried to get out early for you, Cerise, because I'm running over in my other interviews.
You did good. Oh. Okay, I just need to get this saved.
Lots of good stuff here. Just lots of good stuff. I think I was gonna... You're gonna save that and then we'll go on to the next one?
Yeah.
Is a lot of your practice then related to getting people to moving? Is that a little bit, a bit of where you...
You know, I really do predominantly do
movement?
heart testing.
Yeah, right.
Predominantly.
Right.
But what I've actually talked to our physicians, excuse me, what I've talked our physicians into doing is anybody that has a normal myocardial perfusion exam, that's a 4-hour heart test.
Wow.
If it's normal, you know, we used to just let them go.
Oh.
And, you know, and I never see them again until 5-10 years later when they had to have a test again because they were having more trouble.
Let's assume they were sent to you originally because they had a problem.
They come in for chest pain or
Chest
high
pain.
blood pressure or some sort of thing that we're suspecting cardiac disease.
Sure.
If it's okay, we turn them loose. So, you know, I've been at ComCare for 25.5 years now. I said, guys, let me have them. You write off the visit. I want to see them for free one time after their test. Explain it and get them exercising. Again, statistically, it's abysmal what people will, and that's kind of what if we can, I'd like to talk about is perception of time.
Okay.
How you can, but
Right.
do you perceive, you know, what are the first things you give up, Joan, when your life is busy? Exercise and eating right.
You're right.
You drive through,
You're
you
absolutely
don't
right.
take time. And
Or I get stressed and then I want to just sit in front of the TV and eat, which is, you know, just the worst thing in the world you can do.
right, fatigue,
Mhm.
emotional fatigue from
Not
work
sleeping.
paralyzes you.
Mhm.
It just paralyzes you, and
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's start in with that. Cerise, we're going to go 8, right?
Yep.
We're back, and this is Joan with the Joan Jerkovich Show, talking to Adrienne Gapter about obesity, exercise, diet. And one of the things we talked about on break, and you want to go to joanjerkovich.com and listen to some of, watch some of the video, but the perception of time relative to getting that activity in your life.
absolutely, Joan. You know, one of the problems we have is people will say to me, Adrienne, I don't have time. Yet all the years I coached sports at the Y, and the parents would say, well, we don't have time to exercise, yet they'll sit and watch their child practice for an hour and a half in their lawn chairs. And, you know, we give...
Sipping their big gulp.
Sipping their big gulp, that's right, or maybe a diet one, you never
Well,
know
yeah,
on that.
yeah.
But we don't perceive that we have the time. And the unfortunate thing that I found over the years is when I treat a patient that's had bypass surgery, it's amazing how all of a sudden they have that extra hour in the day they didn't have before. And they have now made that transition to the fact that finally it's important.
They got scared into it.
They got scared.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really would like to work with people on is don't make a catastrophic problem motivate you to move. It's not easy. If it were easy, we would all be doing it. I think the other misconception is you have to spend a whole lot of time moving for it to make a difference.
Well, that's what I think. Don't I need an hour in the gym every day?
That would be, if we all had it, wouldn't that
5
not be
days a week.
wonderful? You know, down the line, depending on certain things and conditions, it takes more time to get places that we need to be, especially if we have not exercised for a long period of time
Right.
and have slowly let our bodies, you know, go. You work all day, you're tired, you're emotionally tired. You
Mhm.
come home and you think you should rest. And you know, really what our bodies are telling us to do is move them. Our perception is, I'm too tired to move. So you walk out the door, Joan, when you get home from
Mhm.
work for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Do it once a day for a couple of weeks and see how you feel at the end of that 2-week period. And we're talking 2 hours in 2 weeks. You will notice a difference.
Concept. That's a completely novel concept, because your first reaction, or mine, in like you're saying, what you hear from other people is, I want to sit and rest. But we've been sitting at our computers, or most of us have very sedentary jobs. I certainly do. And so that's a real novel concept. So you're saying even just 10 minutes of walking in your neighborhood
Absolutely.
can do it. You don't have to get in your car, drive to a gym, you know, make it a big process.
That's right. If it's real hot, I'd go to the mall or somewhere indoors just
Right.
because of the safety with high temperatures.
Right.
But we don't have to spend hours because you're not doing it now. So start with something you can be successful with.
Mhm.
5-10 minutes, I don't know about you, I waste that much time in a day.
Oh, I do too.
I can donate it and dedicate it. It's a matter about taking pride and self-responsibility, rather than going to our physician down the line saying, Doctor, can you not just give me a pill for that?
Right.
We need to
Mhm.
be able to take ownership in that, and that helps us motivate and model for our children and the younger, you know, the younger kids around us.
Mhm. Have you seen those little steps being something that has helped you get sedentary people moving?
I have seen tremendous change. In fact, I had a patient not long ago, I said, just start at 10 or 15 minutes a day. She goes, Adrienne, that's easy. I go, what are you doing now? Well, nothing. She started, she talked to me about 6 months later. She had never lost any weight ever. She had lost 11 pounds.
Wow.
11 pounds. She had slowly started
Wow.
adding time because she goes, Adrienne, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I gave myself a little more time. She was up to 30 minutes,
Wow.
3 or 4 days a week. She said, I cannot tell you how much better I feel. You know, when we get tired emotionally and we rest, it just makes our metabolic function slow down, which
Mhm.
makes us more tired. So the more we rev it up, the more we move it, and not at a pace that's uncomfortable ever, but that you feel like you're going, we actually return that or start to turn that metabolism faster. You'll wake up and go, I feel better today. I don't need to take a nap after lunch. I can continue to work or do whatever. And it's a fabulous, fabulous thing that you can start slowly and work up as you go.
And it sounds like as people do that, just what you're prescribing here, you know, start slowly and work up, they get it. They feel better, just like this woman who'd never lost the weight, and all of a sudden she was 11 pounds down and didn't even feel like it was a big intrusion.
No.
It doesn't sound like in her life. We should start a little Facebook club or something, you know, Adrienne and Joan, you know, on the Joan Jerkovich show,
Absolutely.
you know, the 5-10 minute club.
We should, and then we should, because I think it would make
Yeah.
a tremendous difference to people.
Yeah, and all ages, you know, all ages, because, you know, and like you said, you know, if mom and dad are coming home from work and they're doing that, you know, and showing the kids or grabbing the kids, you know, let's go out, or let's kick a ball in the front yard or in the driveway.
Absolutely.
You know, because now are you saying then it doesn't even have to be that intense,
Does
like
not
a
have-
moderate level, or?
Moderate level, absolutely.
Mhm.
Anything that stimulates movement where you go somewhere is better than sitting.
Mhm.
No question about that. And then, you know, you never want to be at the point that's uncomfortable, because how many of us are going to go out and exercise when we know it's going to make us feel bad every single time?
Right. But you know, it's always, you know, and I've been guilty of this too. Okay, I'm going to start. So I'm 5 days a week, you know, an hour and a half a day in the gym, or, you know, now, and then I'm all the sore muscles and I have all this and that. So do you find this small steps in comparison to the big, grandiose start to it has more sustainability?
We seem to have more
Last longer.
sustainability.
Uh-huh.
And you know, I always just say, go every day of the week that you can,
Mhm.
and if you feel like you can't do it that day, you take that day off, but you
Mhm.
continue to
Mhm.
go almost every day,
Mhm.
some movement. And that's why I've always said, always do at least 10 minutes.
Mhm.
Do 10
Mhm.
minutes because it isn't maybe what you want, but many of us, Joan, do exactly what you say. We finally get motivated,
Right.
and then we go overboard.
Right.
We
right.
hurt really bad at the end of the
Mhm.
week, we perceive then, and we have the resentfulness or the resentment of,
Mhm.
I don't have this much time,
Mhm.
so we don't scale back, we quit.
Mhm.
And we have now again lost that battle.
Mhm. You know, since you work in a healthcare setting, I have to ask this question about how do you feel about all of these obese people heading toward surgery as an alternative?
You know,
lap band or gastric bypass?
Those surgeries have a lot of problems.
Mhm.
For as many as we see have success with that. I think
Is that underrepresented? Because
It's
you
underrepresented.
tend to see and hear about the people that have done real well. I've also seen some I personally know who gained a lot of it back
yes.
with milkshakes or whatever it takes to bypass.
Right, and we don't deal with the psychological maybe as well as we
I
need
would
to.
agree.
The other thing about morbid obesity is it's a better alternative to do that than to
Yes.
die of a stroke or a heart attack
True.
if you cannot do it. But, you know, the guy that won The Biggest Loser a couple of times ago actually said, that's what I was going to do.
Wow.
And he was the winner, and I don't recall
Mhm.
his name, but he said, I just needed some self-responsibility and someone to motivate me. And he lost all his weight
And
without
how much
any
was that? Do you
surgery.
remember how many? It was probably over hundreds of pounds.
It
or
was
100
several
and
hundred
something.
pounds.
No, not several hundred.
I think it was over 200.
Over 200
Mhm.
pounds, no gastric bypass,
The week-
just started moving, taking self-responsibility and motivating. Wow, that's a good note to end on here, Adrienne. I think you've sent us a message, and we're going to have to tell people to watch JoanJerkovich.com, because I think Adrienne and Joan are going to start our little 5-10 minute club. So thanks so much for coming in.
Joan, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you bet. We'd love to have you back, because I think this is just a topic that's not going to go away. You're listening to Joan on the Joan Yerkovich Show, 910 KINA.
Is that okay?
You bet. I am just jazzed about this 5-10 minute.
I'm serious. That
I
is a
am
true
dead
story.
serious. If we can get people to, because you know something that I'm working on right now is I am a certified life coach, but I'm getting my board certification done by the end of December. And there's a program they talk all the time about getting people, and it can be weight loss, it can be anything in your life, you know, that we do for life coaching. It's Kaizen, small steps, small steps. Start with those little small steps, and they build from there.
Well, you have to have success,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
women.
Yeah.
And the only issue I really find with girls, sometimes
Mhm.
women, and I think you two can relate to this
Mhm.
completely. There's a lot of balls you got to juggle in the air
Mhm.
between getting success and seeing change and not feeling resentful.
Mhm.
And we got to figure out how much can you do that you can see change. Because you quit if you come in after a month of exercise and say, I haven't lost any
Scale
weight.
hasn't changed, nothing's changed.
And that's how we judge
Right.
our improvement,
That's true.
the weight on the scale,
We
which is
do.
not a good choice, but it's how we do it.
Sure.
So we have to figure out how much is enough that you see change, but not so much that you get resentful because you feel like it's over invading your time.
Mhm.
And that's a hard, and
Mhm.
it's so individualistic, it's hard, but
So is it a bigger issue with women to get them motivated, moving toward, because we're so visually critical. Women are so critical of our bodies. I mean, I think more so than men.
no question.
Yeah,
They won't even join the Y. I won't go in there, Adrienne,
Yeah.
because I'm too fat to go.
I know. And I can't say that, that may have some people looking at them, but, I hope not. But, I can see where that could come into play, you know.
Those of us who are regular exercisers, though, honestly, true, we do not even see those people.
Well, and you
Because we're
welcome
there
them
for
because
ourselves.
you know why they're
Exactly.
there. You welcome them. You honor the fact that they're there, really doing something about it
Mhm.
instead of the ones you see driving through the drive-through and the car's practically tipping on its side because of the size of the person in it.
Mhm.
It's sad. And in some ways, Adrienne, I've kind of felt, and I know I've said this to my husband, I said sometimes I feel like the medical community maybe has dropped the ball a little bit. But maybe that's not fair either. It's almost like blaming the schools for our obese children, but I do see it as a medical issue, of course, but it's also, a societal issue, I'm starting to feel that in our area of the country, and certainly we're seeing this with those statistics I put up, it's not as frowned upon to be overweight.
No.
And
No.
I don't know how to address that. I mean, because I have people of all sizes that I love dearly, and I look at the ones who struggle with their weight, and I have a lot of empathy for that, because I could have been that person too. Who knows? I could have been that person.
I think you're
But there's
right
also
about.
a sense that it's not even society.